What's up, fellow Crash Bandicoot fans? It's Austin CB here, and welcome back to another video. So, usually every year I try to make some time for myself to go through my collection, just do some cleanup and some organization, but also it gives me the opportunity to go through each of my items and just kind of reminisce on them and explore them a little bit more. Recently I had the thought, what is my favorite item in my collection? Now, when you have such a grand collection, it becomes hard to just pick one favorite because, truthfully, I have many Crash items in my collection that I really enjoy. But I thought it would be fun to go through my collection and narrow it down to my top 5 favorite items. So that's what I'm going to be showcasing today. So this year also marks my 5th year of collecting. So this is a pretty special year for me, and while I'm always continuing to add new items to my collection, this list may change at some point in the future, but for now, this is going to be my top 5 favorite Crash items in my collection. So starting off with item number 5 here, lately I've been on a Japanese Crash plush phase, and honestly I just really like Crash Bandicoot plushes in general, especially the Japanese ones, but there's one plush that I just adore, and I've adored it ever since I first laid eyes on it. I am talking about the Namco Fate Crash plush. So this is my favorite Crash Bandicoot plush of all time. There's just no topping this one for me, honestly. Now, this plush was released in the Namco Crash Bandicoot collection line, so this is an official Fate Crash plush. Now, a lot of people believe that this is the plush that inspired Fate Crash's creation. There's the whole story about the supposed bootleg or whatever, but this is an official plush, and if we actually take a look at the tag here, you'll see the rest of the set that it's part of. And there's also a Copyrights 2000 Namco stamp on there as well. So yeah, this guy is 100% official, and he's amazing. I love this plush. So one thing I want to point out with Japanese Crash plushes is a lot of them use this material, like this paint, for the shoes and gloves and stuff, and unfortunately over time that paint begins to chip away, smear, rub off, and it just doesn't age very well. So this plush has unfortunately some peeling in some spots and some deterioration, and that also applies to the laces as well. So with this set in particular, the laces are actually just glued on strips, so he's lost some of his laces, but overall, the plush is in pretty good shape. There's like no major stains or anything like that, but just, I absolutely love this plush. And yeah, now there are a couple other Fate Crash plushes that exist. I'll go ahead and put them on screen now for those of you who are curious, but this is the one people are most likely going to see. So yeah, there's number 5. Alright, so moving on to the number 4 spot, we have the Crash Bandicoot cookie jar from the year 2000. Now, I managed to pick this up with its box a few years back, and ever since then I've just been so in love with this piece. It is truly one of the best Crash Bandicoot items you can find, and unfortunately they are pretty expensive nowadays. If you're looking to get a hold of one of these, you're looking at anywhere between $1,000 to $2,000. These things have just shot up in price, and they are very sought after, but when you do get a hold of one, it is truly worth it. Like I said, one of the best Crash items you can find. The sculpt is just absolutely incredible. The paint work on this thing is beautiful. It's got a nice gloss finish to it, so it's very shiny and reflective. And of course, you can store a lot of cookies in this. You can actually use it for what it's advertised for. But of course, being a collector, I'm going to want to display this piece and make it look nice and pristine. So unfortunately, I do not have any cookies in this thing, but maybe if I had some Crash Bandicoot themed cookies, I'd probably, do something there. But as for the box, nothing too exciting. It's just, features some pretty common renders, but of course you've got the picture of the cookie jar on the front. Now the box is pretty uncommon to find, so it's nice to get it when you can, but overall, just absolutely phenomenal piece. So here we are at the number 3 spot. I have the Crash Bandicoot interactive slot machine, produced by Sammy in the mid-2000s. So these could be found in Japanese pachinko parlors at the time, and were basically created to promote the 10th anniversary of the Crash series at the time. Now, there are 2 different models that were produced. This one here being the interactive slot model, so this was the first model to be released. And then over here in the corner, I have the CR model. Now, the CR model is the quote-unquote refined version, and this one actually incorporates pachinko and slot, so it's kind of like a 2-in-1 deal there. Now, while this machine has some pretty interesting mechanics and features to it, I think I honestly prefer the interactive slot model just because it's a little bit easier to get into. There's not a whole lot of complexities to this one. So if we take a close-up look at it, you'll notice there's a video that plays in the top screen here. Now, this is just the demo video, but when you have the machine functioning, you basically have access to different mini-games and different events depending on how well you do in the slot portion. So here we have the reels, and then up here we have the bonuses that you'll want to try to hit. And then off to the side, we have the target bonuses as well. And then over here, you have your line counter, as well as your credit score. And going down, we have the main display, which is lit up. And one thing I want to point out, you have the other bonuses featured here as well. So these are the smaller bonuses in your replay bonus. But yeah, it looks really, really nice lit up. Now, another thing you'll probably notice is that a lot of the designs on this machine are heavily influenced by the Wrath of Cortex. So these machines actually came out a few years after the Wrath of Cortex. Now, I have had requests to get footage of this machine working, so I will go ahead and put some footage that I captured up now, but I do want to revisit this someday and get some more footage. But for now, I will also link an older video on screen now of this machine in action for those of you who want to check it out. Now, I don't have any footage of the CR model, unfortunately. I do want to get footage of that one as well, but I am still very new to that one. There's a little more to it than I initially expected. I just have to find the time to dive into it, but I have gotten to play around with this one a lot, and I really do enjoy this machine. So with that being said, let's go ahead and move on to the number 2 spot. And here we are at our number 2 spot. We have the Crash Bandicoot Warped promotional leather jacket. Now, these were made and given out to the staff at Naughty Dog to celebrate the launch of Crash Bandicoot Warped. However, some of these jackets actually made it out to the public. So this specific jacket here was actually auctioned off at Universal Studios California, and I actually have the bid tag still intact. Now, funny enough, I actually got this jacket through an eBay auction, so it's just been passed down through auctions over the years, and yeah, when I say this is one of the coolest Crash Bandicoot pieces, I truly mean it. This thing is absolutely gorgeous, and with it being a leather piece, it's actually held up pretty well over the years. A lot of leather stuff tends to age pretty bad, like if you don't maintain it, you can get stuff like peeling and cracking, but this jacket has stayed in pristine condition, which I really like. Now, this jacket remained as my favorite Crash Bandicoot item for a long time until obviously the next item, the number 1 spot, took that position, but this is still an amazing piece, and I honestly couldn't recommend it enough. Before we take a look at the final item, I felt it'd be necessary to dedicate this section to some honorable mentions. So, like I mentioned at the start of the video, I have many Crash Bandicoot items in my collection that I personally really like, and I felt I should mention a few of those in this video. Now, while I do enjoy them, they just barely made it out of this list, but I still felt they should be mentioned. So honorable mention number 1 goes to the Crash Tag Team Racing promotional statue. So these here were given out to the developers at Radical Entertainment after Crash Tag Team Racing launched. These were also available across Europe through specific promotions or pre-orders. As far as I know, these were not available in the United States, so they are pretty uncommon in this part of the world. Now, I did manage to find this one with the box, so getting the box is another challenge, so if you can find one with the box, consider yourself lucky. Now, if you are an avid tag team racing enthusiast like I am, you'll probably recognize what this statue is based off of. Of course, it's based off the iconic loading screen. You don't have the burps or the farts this time around, or the penguin. Honorable mention number 2 goes to the Crash of the Titans Nintendo DS Project Art Book. So this art book was made specifically or exclusively for employees at Amaze Entertainment while they were working on the DS port of Crash of the Titans. So these were not available to the public. So these are extremely rare, extremely hard to find. However, I was lucky enough to get a hold of one of these, and I did do a flick through of this a while back, so I'll go ahead and link that on screen now. And yeah, I should probably mention this also was made with a project soundtrack CD as well, but I still have yet to track one of those down. And the last honorable mention goes to the Crash Bandicoot Warped Press Kit. So these were given out to members of the press, so journalists, reviewers, etc., to basically review the game. Now, these kits came with various items, exclusive stuff like that. Of course, you have the main game. You also had a press CD that came with it that includes promotional artwork and renders and stuff like that. You get a brochure that goes over the game storyline and the marketing. And then you also get this really interesting t-shirt. I'm honestly thinking about doing a more in-depth video on this kit at some point in the future, so do keep an eye out for that. And so here we are at the top of the list, item number 1. So this is a more recent pickup. I actually picked this up within the last year, and while it is one of my newer items, it quickly became one of the most sentimental Crash pieces I own. So this statue was given out to employees that worked on Crash Bandicoot Warped to celebrate 1 million sales of Crash 3 in Japan, which at the time was a pretty huge milestone. It was rare to see a Western-based IP take off in Japan. However, Crash was one of the IPs that managed to do so, and of course, to celebrate this occasion, these amazing statues were made and given out to the team. And honestly, the camera doesn't do it justice. This thing is absolutely incredible. The sculpt is fantastic. The colors are vibrant. It's also a very sturdy piece. Now, this thing does have some weight to it, believe it or not. Now, glancing at the design, it's pretty obvious that this is based off of Crash Bandicoot's Japanese design, hence the Pac-Man shaped eyes and the cutesy, simplistic look, but this thing is just incredible. I should probably mention that this statue would have originally came with a base that it sits on, and the base would have had an appreciation plaque stamped to the front of it. Now, I do not have the base. I actually got this statue secondhand, and the seller did not have the base on them, so I do need to look for one of those at some point. But honestly, I'm just super thankful that I have the statue. It is truly one of the greatest Crash Bandicoot pieces out there, and I just can't express the joy that this piece brings me. Crash Bandicoot Warped has always remained as my personal favorite Crash game in the series. It was one of my first video games, and it was one of the games that got me into video games, so adding this piece to my collection kind of feels like a full circle moment, and I couldn't be more grateful for that. I'd say the craziest thing about this pickup to me is that this was at one point owned by somebody that worked on Crash Bandicoot Warped, and it's just crazy for me to even fathom that I own this piece. Now, I don't know the original employee that this statue was given to. I wish I did, because I would want to personally thank them for their contribution. And I am super grateful that this is now in my hands, because this is one of the Crash Bandicoot pieces that I will continue to cherish for as long as I have it. To close off the video, I just want to give thanks to everybody for showing their support. This was a really fun video to do. I really enjoyed working on this one. You know, it gave me a chance to go through my entire collection and really reconnect with all of my items. Now, like I mentioned at the start of the video, when you have such a massive collection, it becomes harder and harder to pick favorites, you know. I do have a lot of Crash Bandicoot things in my collection that I personally really like, but I am honestly very happy with the items I picked for this video. And with that being said, that's going to conclude my top 5 items video. If you enjoyed, feel free to drop a like, comment your thoughts down below, and feel free to subscribe for more future content. I've been It's Austin CB, and thank you so much for watching.